Welcome back to our YouTube channel. And today we are talking about
dating.
Our dating lives.
Dun, dun, dun.
Where it's at, what it looks like, what we're currently doing, who we're doing. So stay tuned.
What we're doing.
But we're not millennials, Andy. We're like generation... No, we're like generation
We're
Z.
millennials.
No, we're not.
You want to bet?
Bet what?
A bottle of wine.
Alright. You probably are. I'm not.
Where are your portables? Between 1981 and 1986. So between 23 and 38 in 2019.
23 and 38?
Oh, yes. Okay, so what has dating life been like? It sucks.
I was gonna say interesting, but
no.
Sometimes, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's that often.
I think it sucks. Like,
I wouldn't say suck. I would say kind of like flatline.
Flatline's a good word.
Flatline.
But I think just trying to date in general sucks. Like, alright, so why don't we jump into some of these? So, we wrote down a few things that we wanted to make sure that we touch on. Well, there's a lot of things, but we're not going to get through all of them. But, I think one of the things that I've learned to just kind of really get better at is just being yourself. Like, I know, like, when you first begin to, like, date somebody, especially if you like them or you just met them and you really like them or you're really digging them, it's like we put up a very fictitious part of ourselves out there to be like, oh, but I think you're going to like this part of me and I think you're going to like that part of me. And at the end of the day, it's like, I think that things like that only end up making yourself look that way only makes it harder for the other person to really get to know you. And it's like the sooner you're authentic, it's like the sooner, like, they're either really gonna like you or maybe they're just like, hey, this isn't for me, or we could just be friends or whatever. And that's just the reality of things. Like, you can't force a relationship, you can't force people to like you. And I feel like I've gotten so comfortable with who I am and just being like, hey, this is me. I love to eat hot Cheetos, I love reggaeton, I love, X, Y, and Z, and it's just like, that's how I am, Like, well, what do you talk about when you first getting to know somebody?
I like to talk about, I think usually from what I've seen that I noticed, unless through text message we share like something that we have a lot in common, like whether it's music or movies, sometimes I try to start it off with something that I know, that I remember that we have in common. If not, it's kind of like, work.
But that's only if you're saying that's only if you met somebody through a dating app that you saw something you have a common. You saw something that you have a common interest.
Yes, or that we had a conversation about but it's usually like about work, school. What am I doing? What are they doing? Where did they go? They go into detail about their jobs, and then it goes from there. Like, I bring up all this stuff. I bring up work, relationships, kids, family. It just starts slowly to come out and stuff like that.
I don't like to bring up kids right away, and let me tell you why. Not because I'm ashamed or I'm like, I don't want the person to know I have a kid. That is not why. I think it's better, in my personal experience, is let the person get to know you as a person a little bit before you're like, hey, do you have a kid?
I don't talk about them. I only answer the question if they ask me if I have a child.
Yeah, I answer the question too, but I feel like I do tell them at some point, and it's just kind of like, I think you should get to know Andy, because just because I'm a mom, that doesn't mean that's all I am. And I feel like people can quickly, men especially, are quickly to be like, oh, well, you're a mom.
Well, let me tell you what happened to me on a date once. When I was on a date, he knew that I had a child, and that's just kind of like where it's at. You know what he asked me? He's like, who's taking care of your kid? And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, who's watching your daughter? And I'm like, what does that matter? And I was like, my dog Pepper. Come on, he's the most loyal, responsible person I know. And I was like, are you for real?
Were you offended?
I wasn't offended. I was kind of taken back because nobody has ever asked me that.
Mm.
But then he kind of like tried to push it towards like, shouldn't you be at home with her? Kind of thing. And I was just kind of like...
Then why would you ask me out if you're so concerned about the well-being of my child?
That is by far one of the weirdest like conversations where it just like...
Weird.
Yeah, it just got weird and I was just kind of like...
No one's ever asked me that.
I don't know if I want to continue to go.
Yeah, I get a kick out of like disagreeing with men. Like they're talking about something and I'll be like, no, I don't agree.
I could only imagine.
And man, has that gotten me into some deep waters. They're just like, oh.
I'm like, agree to disagree?
Anyways.
Moving on.
But yeah.
Another one. Not always having sex on the first date. You could say no. Nothing wrong with doing it. But I feel like that's something you need to really be okay with yourself.
Yeah, and I think like just being okay with it and then just being like, just because we had sex once doesn't mean we need to have sex again. Like you could say no at any given time, and I feel like
they think it's like a free pass. Like once
yeah,
you do it once, it's kind of like
every time
I could hit you up anytime, or I just need to, you know, take you to dinner or buy you a few drinks, and it's just kind of like,
Oh, speaking of buying a few drinks and dinner. So I went out with this guy recently, and we were going out. This was like the first time we were gonna go out, and he's telling me how he's like saying that he wants to treat me, and I was just like, yeah, that's fine. I was like, I don't have a problem. Like if you want to pay for dinner and take me out and swoon me, whatever, that's fine. I said, but, and I was very clear. I said, but you're not gonna hold this over me. Like this isn't a pass to be like you're gonna get what you want in return. And when we ended up going out that night, like he tried to kiss me and I was like, what did I tell you? I said, this isn't just because you're buying me dinner. That doesn't mean you're going to get a kiss. That doesn't mean you're going to get a hug. That doesn't mean like any of those things. And I think because we were drinking, like he was a little bit more pushy about it. And he was like trying to kiss me in the mouth. And I was like,
I wouldn't imagine where anywhere else he would want to kiss you.
Well, and so yeah, and it was just kind of like, that's just like
awkward.
Not only was it awkward, but it's just kind of like, dude, like that's not okay. Like, you know. Like, first of all, learn how to hold your own alcohol. And two, I was, like, very clear when I told you, like, this is, like, you're just getting to know somebody. Like, what makes you think that that doesn't mean we're going to have chemistry. That doesn't mean I'm going to want to see you again. That doesn't mean we're going to have sex. That doesn't mean any of those things. And I feel like men don't have that same type of, like, perspective as women. You know what I mean?
Or even filter. Like, to try to filter those things out, you know?
Or just being respectful. And it's just kind of like, okay. I just think it's all about consent and just being like, if it's okay, like just ask. When in doubt, you just fucking ask.
I usually lean and kiss them. Like, you're gonna kiss me? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I'd be like, nope.
Imagine somebody fucking goes like, Matrix.
Yeah, I would do that. No, that's what I did. He was trying to come in and I was like, oh. I mean, I get it. Like, I could see how I could see that they're gonna feel rejected, but I'm like, no, I didn't consent to that. That doesn't mean. But yeah, and it was just like such an uncomfortable thing, and you know, like I was just kind of like, okay, I'm gonna like let it go. I'll be forgiving. I'm gonna let this one go. And then this motherfucker tried to do it again when we went out again, and then he claimed that we made out. He said that we made out 10 times. I was like, I wouldn't even. That's what. No, that's a little mean. No, but I didn't feel chemistry with him. I was like, I wasn't digging it. Like, I wasn't like...
And you see, and that's where they need to learn how to be okay with. They need to learn how to be okay with, like, it just wasn't there and that's it. You let it go, you know, and you move on.
Yeah, because as much as, like, you're digging somebody and I really like you, I'm into you, you're fucking hot, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's like, doesn't mean that the other person's feeling the same way. And I think when you date, you need to be okay with that.
You do.
Because it's like, just because you like someone doesn't mean it's going to be reciprocated, and you just have to let it go, and that's part of dating.
Not just that, I feel like rejection is seen like a very bad thing. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't always feel great. But I think once you learn how to accept it, and be like, okay, don't see it as a negative, like, oh my god, you're this worst person, nobody wants to date you. I feel like it's not like that. It's just kind of like, that person just wasn't feeling you, or it just wasn't there, and that's it, you know? It is what it is. And I feel like for me in the beginning, it was just kind of like, I had a hard time, like, navigating, like, why don't they text back? Or, you know, why aren't we going on another date again, and so forth. And I was just kind of like, you know what, maybe it's just a one-time thing. So I think what I've learned to be like, hey, even these one-time things, some of them are great.
And that reminds me of like going back to what we were saying earlier, just like being yourself and enjoying the moment and enjoying it for what it is, because you don't know, it could be your only date, it could be the last date, or it could be one of many. But you just have to be open-minded, I think, when it comes to dating, and just being like, just filling it out, seeing where it's gonna go.
Aside from going to, like, if you have to go to school or if you have to go to work, and then maybe if you have kids, like, just trying to juggle that in general is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy.
Regardless of whether you have kids or not. Because,
yeah.
Yeah, you could be a student, you can have other hobbies, you can have other responsibilities.
And it's just like everything has to be like scheduled. And then there's times where just like you're so tired, you're like, I don't want to do shit. I don't want to do it. Maybe not that day. Who knows how you feel tomorrow or next week. And I feel like that is definitely one thing I've learned. I'm like, I'm going to do it when I feel good and I want to, because I do take breaks from it here and there, you know, where I'm just kind of like, I'm just not in the mood. And I feel like I wouldn't want to date somebody if I'm in the mood, because that's exactly what's going to come off. The way I feel. And it's just kind of like, that sucks. You know, this person is probably looking forward to it. And I'm over here like, meh. You know, I wouldn't want that, like a half-ass date to be like, fuck all this shit. I got ready for what?
Right. I think like, you're right. I think like being 100% when you are on dates, because it's like, yeah, I wouldn't want to date somebody like that. Like, you're not feeling yourself. Take your ass back home and then call me when you're feeling better.
You know what's funny? The last few ones that I've run into are people that are juggling way too much, or their work is just consumes, I would say, a good amount of their time, which I get. You're trying to achieve something, that's your life, that's your career. I get it. But it's just kind of like, if you can't fit it in, then do it when you can.
And then you know what could be an outcome of that? It's like, while you met me this way, let's say you guys do continue to date, you're like, while you met me this way, and you knew my career was first, so you get the short end of the stick. Like, no.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like, that sucks, because it's like, I have no problem compromising with schedules and dates. I have no problem with doing that. But it's like, if it's not reciprocated, it's like, and I feel like I've learned to be understanding, to be like, I know shit comes up, especially if you have kids. Sometimes your job, sometimes you don't feel well. I get it. But I feel like, I'm like, all right, let me know when you're free again. But if that person never hits me back up, or, you know, isn't willing to, like, want to do it again, I'm like, I leave it as is. I'm like, you know what?
I'll hit them up maybe, like, one more time.
No, I will.
Just so that I know, like, hey, I asked, and if, you know, you didn't come through, then that's on you.
That's what I mean. And it's like, I'll ask again. I'm like, maybe that didn't work out. Let me know what works for you. And then we'll take it from there. But if that doesn't get reciprocated, I leave it as is. I'm like, you know what? I tried.
Like, I need somebody to be understanding, somebody that's, like, emotionally available, somebody that's, like, you know, open-minded, I think, just in general.
I think if you go to Walmart on aisle 5, I think they have that.
Under the enemas. So, thank you for watching this video. We hope you've enjoyed. We definitely had fun having this conversation. We have these conversations all the time.
All the time.
So, you know, this is just a little glimpse of some of the things we talk about. Keeping it real with dating. Like I said, we've hoped you enjoyed it. If you have any juicy stories, anything to share, leave us a comment in the comments below. Otherwise, we will see you in our next video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.
Bye.